Justice Bafo Bonny has been at the Supreme Court since 2008.
Yes, that's about 17 years ago.
17 years now.
Yeah.
I mean, but if you do a quick recall of the petitions against Chief Justices of the Republic of Ghana and also the results, let me just put it on record that this is actually the first time we're having this process get to the point of a Chief Justice being suspended. It's a precedence. It's first development in our democratic history as a country, essentially.
Yes, Alfred, that's right. But it's not all gloomy as many may perceive it to be, because in the minds of many, this is already a closed matter where
the CJ is gone.
But that's not what it is, because we are still at a point where she's going through a process. It's only got to a point where there's a case for her to answer, and if she answers favorably, you can't tell what the outcome would be. For instance, if the committee returns or makes a recommendation that, yes, she's been able to answer favorably to the allegations that have been made against her, we will not get to a point where the Chief Justice will be removed from office. So, I mean, essentially, it's not all that's... It's not a closed case yet as many may perceive it to be. So let's just follow through the process and see what the outcomes will be, Alfred.
It's a very interesting point that you make, and then it sets the matters in context, so that this process is going to flow. But then again, in time past, in previous cases of petitions against Chief Justices of the Republic of Ghana, it has not ever gotten to the point where a Chief Justice has been suspended.
No.
This is the development. This is the only one we are seeing that's gotten to this point where Article 14610A of the 1990 Constitution has been activated. If you look at from 1991 to 1995, the then Chief Justice Philip Edward Archer served within that particular period. There's really no record found of that. Isaac Kobina Aban also served as the Chief Justice of the Republic of Ghana from 1995 to 2001. There's really no record found of that, of any petitions. Then, in the case of the Chief Justice Edward Kwame Redu, who served as the Chief Justice of the Republic of Ghana between 2001 and 2003, Francis Janko Asasi Kofi was the petitioner in that particular case. What was the basis of the petition? Lying under oath about his date of birth, whether it was 1934 or 1932, it had to be determined. And also, he talked about deceiving Parliament during vetting to extend his tenure, and then committing perjury by providing false information to a public officer. When this was investigated, there was no prima facie case established, essentially.
So Alfred, when you look at all of these things, you realize that they all stem from the same allegation. I mean, to think that it was in respect of information that was provided and the context in which it was provided. That's how come you see the cases of perjury, you see the cases of false information before Parliament and all that. But essentially, they got to a conclusion that this petition actually failed. So we didn't even get to a point where the Chief Justice will have to be suspended, and then to make yes.
So that's one, and then the second we had, and this was quite popular at the time because Bright Takwete was a private legal practitioner like yourself, was then serving as an executive of the CPP at that point, and he petitioned against the George Kingsley Akwa, who was then Chief Justice of the Republic of Ghana, petitioned the former president, John Agyekum Kufuor, in that particular case. What was the basis for Bright Akwete's petition? Judicial interference, instructing judges on how to rule on specific cases, and abuse of office. They said former Chief Justice George Kingsley Akwa was misusing his authority in judicial matters, and then also victimization of judges. Then that particular petition also failed.
Yes, it also failed.
Essentially because really there was no case established against the then Chief Justice. And fast forward, Georgina Tudor-Wood also had two petitions against her. She served as Chief Justice for 10 years, from 2007 to 2017. So guess what? That spans about almost 3 different administrations, right?
Yes,
because she was appointed by the former president, John Agyekum Kufuor. She served under the late John Evans Mills, served also in the first term of John Dramani Mahama until 2017 when she was then replaced. Okay, so 2 petitions against her. The citizens of La home and abroad petitioned her. The basis of their petition was that she was unfair in handling of the land cases related to the Gadangbe people. And you remember this Gadangbe land matter has been dragging to today.
Yes.
It's on. And in this case, the petitioner, one Ernest, let's go back a bit. One Ernest Obri Latte, a basis for the second petition was stated misbehavior and incompetence. And you read the three bases on which a Chief Justice
so
can
this
be
likely
asked to vacate her
the
position.
basis for which you can ask for the removal of Chief Justice.
Stated misbehavior.
Yes, so all other things
incompetence.
that have been stated here, like the way she handles the cases, will tie in into making a case under any of these stated misbehavior or incompetence and any of those things.
I see. So there was a then Justice Sophia Akufo, who is a member of the Council of State now
yeah,
for John Dramani Mahama as President of the Republic of Ghana, was petitioned. Indeed, a petition was sent against her by Mensa Thompson of ASEPA. That's the former President Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo, who is her relative. This put it in context. Her relative was petitioned.
exactly,
right? And that petition failed. Essentially, it was thrown out.
But
right?
I like the context of so you deal with this, and I'll just tell you something very interesting that
see afterwards, and let's go back to the Sophia Akufo, because her period, even though short, had some interesting and landmark cases as well that she presided over, and also left a lot for you lawyers to chew on within this period of between 2017 and 2019. That petition failed, but then let's look at the next who took over after Sophia Akufo. We see Justice Kwesi Anini-Yeboah, who the same Mensa Thompson petitioned the former President Nana Akufo-Addo against Kwesi Anini-Yeboah. That petition also failed because there was no prima facie case established against the allegation of $5 million bribery scandal by one lawyer against Justice Anini-Yeboah. That was thrown out as well. And then Gertrude Esabato Kono essentially has the highest in terms of the number of petitions that Chief Justices have, received or been petitioned
under the Fourth Republic.
Under the Fourth Republic.
Yeah.
4 petitions against her, and that's the highest so far, at least since 1992. Professor Stephen Kwesi comes in the latest, if you recall. That was just after the elections we got to know of it. The basis of his petition was that she overstepped constitutional powers in appointing justice of the Supreme Court, raised constitution of judicial panels and transfer of judges, usurping rules of court committee, and the judicial manipulation as well. What was the ruling on that? The conclusion was that that had no basis, essentially.
So the petition was actually dismissed.
The former President Nana Akufo-Addo threw it out.
So Alfred, let me just point out something very interesting that's happening here. So you recall that a few weeks ago there was also another petition against one of the Supreme Court justices, Justice Palmer. That petition has actually gone to the Chief Justice, who, as required by law, was supposed to determine a prima facie case or otherwise. Now, a few weeks later, that petition was withdrawn. Now we have a situation whereby this man, whose fate largely would have been determined by the Chief Justice, now becomes the chair of a committee that's going to look into allegations that are against the same person who once upon a time or a few days back was looking into matters that affected the now chair of this particular committee. This is just about the twists and turns of life and how fluid some of these things can be. At one point,
you are the one going to determine the fate of someone, and then the next moment the person
they
is
have the
one
opportunity to also make a determination on
fate.
Exactly so, Alfred.
Interesting, they say that the life has many twists.
Precisely.
And, but earlier you mentioned the matter of who is going to act as Chief Justice, because the legal architecture hates vacuum, and that's why the provision that you read has made some steps available. to be taken for an acting Chief Justice to be appointed. We're hearing from the cortesses of the presidency that there's a name that has just come up right now. Our presidential affairs correspondent Kamla Kluchi is joining us on the telephone. Kamla, what are you learning about the possible name of the acting Chief Justice that has been named as yet?
Well, no official communication, but what we pick up from the corridors of this administration is to the effect that Justice Bafo-Boni is to be acting as the Chief Justice, while Gertrude Tokono is going through the suspension and going through the process, whether she would be kicked out or she would be vindicated, whichever way it goes. But it cannot be void. That administrative process that she plays at the judiciary or as the head of the judiciary, it cannot be void. And so the next in line, which by convention has been the senior most, is Justice Bafo-Boni, who we understand would be acting in his stead. All of this is playing out as a result of that breaking news story that came in this afternoon from the seat of government concerning the suspension of a Chief Justice subsequent to the formation of that 5-member committee that's been set up to investigate her on the 3 petitions that have been sent to her. So yes, of course, even without it on the face of it, discussions have been to the effect that it's Justice Bafo-Boni who would likely be succeeding her in the event that she is found culpable of the various allegations that have been leveled against her. However, in terms of the convention structure of the judiciary, my understanding from the corridors of power is that some word has been put to the next senior most to be acting in her stead while she goes through the process.
See, but generally, how has the talk and the reaction been at the presidency where you are in terms of the reaction to this particular announcement or the press statement from the government communications minister, Phyllis Kwachofoso, earlier today?
Well, if you talk to very ordinary people at the presidency who do not necessarily have any position of authority, they tell you it's long overdue. But if you're speaking to staffers, if you're speaking to, senior advisors, senior government people, they said, well, the president has absolutely nothing against the Chief Justice. In fact, many of them recall just when the president had won, the Chief Justice on many occasions was seen around His Excellency the President. The very last one was when the president met the diplomatic community and had dinner with them. I remember the Chief Justice and her husband were the very first to have even come to the venue before the diplomats even got there. Not too sure what the arrangements were, but it appeared that closeness was there until all of this thing, started making waves again, where she had to pull back. And you would also recall during the National Economic Dialogue, she was there and sat very close to the president and all that. So the relationship, my understanding from senior members of this administration is to the effect that the president has no ill feeling about the Chief Justice. Is the process that he is just allowing her to go through in terms of fairness. Petitions were brought against her. Now there's determination by the Council of State that a prima facie has been established against her, which is not necessarily finality to the issue. She still needs to go through the process up to the final stage, whether she stands vindicated or she stands exposed, for want of a better word, in terms of being found guilty of the various offenses that have been leveled against her. And so it's all about taking her through the process, and the insistence is that at every material time they would do everything according to law and will not shortchange anything. It is to deepen the the respect for the judiciary, the respect for due process as well, and also to allow for justice to be served in this matter.
Komla, appreciate you for this. Thank you so much for the latest coming through from the presidency, our presidential affairs correspondent, Komla Kloche there. Earlier, my colleague Joseph Akable spoke to Deputy Attorney General, Dr. Justice Srem-Sai, on this development as well and how the process will be going forward.
No, so there must be, I think people, we need to look at two things. There's an application for an injunction, and also there is the substantive case. Okay, what would constitute? I mean, the substantive case is still on, as far as I understand it, and there's nothing moot about it because the issue that the plaintiff has raised is an issue seeking the court enforcement of a provision, and so that is going to be, which is that whether the Chief Justice should be given the petition, should be given a copy of the petition even before it is forwarded to the Council of State, So that issue will be there, and I believe it will be a relevant issue for the future in the sense that next time that there is any such petition, we will know whether it could be transmitted to the Council of State before the Chief Justice is given a copy. So far, and I don't know, so far the practice shows that every petition that has gone, to the Council of State had gone to the Council of State before a reference is made to the Chief Justice involved. Even the previous, petition which the former Attorney General, that Dr. Yabo Adami government superintended over, the record shows that it was forwarded to the Council of State before the Chief Justice was given a copy. So even though it's a strange proposition, we believe that a clarity from the court could be useful. In that case, the issue is not moot in respect of the merit of the case. For the injunction, the injunction is moot, but not because of the president's decision. It became moot the moment the Chief Justice got the opportunity and responded. That was when the injunction became moot as far as my understanding of the law is concerned. So if there's any mootness, it wasn't caused by the president going ahead to find a prima facie case or to suspend the Chief Justice. It became moot the moment the Chief Justice was given the opportunity to respond, and he indeed responded to the petition. So that was when it became moot.
On your mootness point, to the extent that in court documents, you argue strenuously that there is no law that requires the president to offer such a hearing. Would you not agree that that, to an extent, leaves the matter still open, that there ought to be some pronouncement on that, even if not in relation to the injunction, even a substantive matter itself?
That is what I said earlier, that there are two aspects. One, where the mootness comes in is when it's about the injunction. That is where the mootness comes in. But in terms of the merits, the substantive cases from the argument we have put before the court, it is not, even though, you see, even though it's moot, the court has heard that in future matters, that can also, so the court can still be here to prevent such a dispute arising in the future. So that's why I said earlier that when it comes to the merit of the case, it is not moot, but as far as the injunction is concerned, it became moot the moment the Chief Justice was given an opportunity to be heard.
And in terms of the considerations that the president undertook in terms of the process to come to the conclusion that, well, he should offer her hearing, was it strictly based on what you had seen from the records in terms of how President Akufo-Addo handled those petitions that resulted in the decision to extend her hearing, particularly because of the fact that you make the point that no law from your arguments allows such a hearing to be extended to her?
No, you see, when the law says that every child is entitled to, let's say, for example, to secondary education, okay? Or let me give another. When the law says that, if a law says that a person should not be kept, when they are arrested, they shouldn't be kept for more than 48 hours before being arraigned before a court. It doesn't mean that you should keep the person, for 48 hours. It means that if you can, even 1 second after arrest, you may take the person there. So the fact that we are arguing that the fact that we are arguing that there's no legal requirement that the CJ should be given a hearing before the document is transmitted, it does not mean that when you give a hearing to the person, you have committed or you have violated the Constitution. It only means that you have expanded or you have given more than the Constitution requires. So it's the same thing as saying that 48 hours. It doesn't mean that you should wait for 48 hours. It means that you should do it within the 48 hours. So that is the point. The fact that we have given, the president has decided to give the Chief Justice a hearing, before transmitting or before the committee speaks, does not mean that the president has done anything wrong. And the two arguments can still go together.
I mean, as a legal academic yourself, I mean, the question that I want to ask is, what do you make of suggestions that it is high time we need an instrument to regulate this particular procedure, given that a lot of it, the inroads have been made by way of judicial pronouncements?
Yeah, true. I mean, an instrument will raise a lot of the doubts and will make certain things clear. So, from where I sit, I think an instrument, a legislative instrument or constitutional instrument to further regulate this position, this process, could be very helpful in the whole. Could be very helpful. Yeah, so I agree with you. The other thing which I think we are dealing with is whether the suspension is necessary under the circumstances. When you look at the Constitution, whether or not to suspend the Chief Justice is a question. It's not automatic that whenever a prima facie case is found by the Council of State and the President, the Chief Justice should be suspended. However, there are other reasons why the Chief Justice may be suspended. So, for example, we have 3 petitions, right? And they are made up of allegations which we, the public, are not aware of. Now, the question is, if you have 3 petitions, you definitely will need a lot of time to prepare your defense and your explanation. So I think, playing the role of the head of the judiciary, both administratively and then judicially, is already a lot of work. And meetings are involved, and decisions are taken, and lectures and reading and all. That's a very heavy duty. So to put the Chief Justice in a position where we continue to perform these functions, and at the same time also be defending herself in respect of 3 petitions concurrently, that be probably one of the reasons why the president may want to suspend the Chief Justice, so that he would have sufficient time to prepare and defend herself against allegations. Another reason could also be, and I'm saying could because I'm not privy to what went on in the what informed the decision to suspend, but I'm only giving you some of the possible considerations. It could also be that element of preventing interference with the inquiry. As you may know, the Chief Justice is the head of the judiciary and is administrative head, and all the Supreme Court judges are more or less subject to her administrative directives.
That's Deputy Attorney General, Minister of Justice of the Republic of Ghana, Dr. Justice Srem-Sai there. Now, if you recall, just about a week ago, Global Info Analytics also did a survey, put out the details, which we also discussed quite extensively on Ghana Tonight sometime last week on TV3. But the man who put this together and essentially detailing that 52% of the respondents were indeed in support of the attempt to remove the Chief Justice. There are others who had raised questions about the outcome of this particular survey. 18% of the respondents said they were neutral about this, said, attempts to remove the Chief Justice. 20% opposed, and 10% said they had no opinion. Musa Dankwa is joining us on Zoom right now. Musa Dankwa, appreciate your time. Good evening. Thank you for joining us here on Hot Edition.
Having me.
First off, I know after this, the details of this particular survey were released sometime last week. One of the reactions is that the question that you asked them, a number of them did not even know, the details of the said petition, and so the outcome of this particular survey, 52% saying they're in favor of the removal of Chief Justice, would be a misplaced one because they were only just sharing their views in oblivion. not knowing exactly what the details of the petition against the Chief Justice was. Would you agree with that?
That is exactly what we asked them, Alfred. Let me say hello to your listeners. Now, you see, the fact that people don't like the poll did not stop the public from having their opinion. Our crime was just to bring that opinion into public domain. We are aware that the process that is being taken, she's been taken through, is legal process, and not many people understand the process. So we didn't ask them about the legality or otherwise of the process. They wouldn't understand those issues. But at least they know that the aim of the process will lead to either removal of the Chief Justice or leaving her in the office. That is not in dispute. So we did ask them a simple question, but this is how we framed the question. We told them that there are currently 3 petitions from Ghanaians asking for the removal of the Chief Justice, but no evidence of any impropriety has been made publicly yet. This is what we told the voters. And we asked them, do you support the process to remove her? We didn't ask them, do they support or do they believe it is legal or illegal or inappropriate? Just for them to give us their views on whether they support the process that has been initiated to remove her. Here, the essence of this question is to see people who will be objective, to say maybe let's wait and see the evidence before we support. But what did we see here? The poll showed that 52% of voters support the process to remove her without seeing any evidence. So the question is, people should be asking, why should Ghanaians, those educated, uneducated, wanting somebody to be removed without even seeing the evidence? That is the problem, and not the polls. Secondly, 20% said, no, we don't support it, but probably they haven't seen the evidence, or regardless of whether there's evidence or not, they won't support it. 10% did not have an opinion, and 18% were neutral. Now, we didn't end here, or we didn't end there. We went a step further to say, okay, now let's see those who will be objective. If there is evidence against her, would you still support the process to remove her? And this question was answered by those who had told us they didn't have an opinion, or they were neutral, or they oppose it. When we put this second question to them, then you have 30% of them now saying that, yes, they'll support the process if he's found to have broken the law. But 35% are still saying that, no, they wouldn't support the process. So they are saying that regardless of the evidence adduced against her, she should be left in the office. So these are the issues that people should be interrogating, and not the person who has not gone through the polls. So frankly speaking, there are those who, regardless of evidence or lack of it, they want her out. And there are those who, even with evidence, they don't want her out.
I see, but then let me understand this. Those who said they were neutral and those who said they had no opinion, what's the difference? In fact, because if somebody says I'm neutral on it, and another says I have no opinion on the matter, what makes those 2 positions different in itself?
Usually, the neutrals are maybe they have information a bit, but they haven't got enough information to make decision. So they kind of sitting on the fence. And no opinion, probably he hasn't got no knowledge about what is happening. So he has no opinion about the whole thing. So those who are neutral are normally sitting on the fence, waiting for further and better information.
I see. But then I look at the regional breakdown of the respondents as well. That also tells a different story per region. As we see it, in the Western North region, we had 82% of the respondents saying that indeed they are in there saying they support the removal of the Chief Justice. What does that tell you? It's followed by the Volta region, 76%. I mean, what does that tell you?
You know, some of the figures tend to trend with party partisan lines. Because Western North, you will say that it's an NDC region. Western region, NDC won it, but most of them support her removal. Voter region, overwhelmingly 76%. Upper West region, about 49%. And then you have Savannah, 66%, OT 70% support. And Northern region, about 45%. Northeast, about 39% support. Greater Accra, 58%. Eastern region, 48%, still majority. Central region, 51% majority. Bono East, 72 majority. Bonos, 82 majority. Ashanti region, even 82 majority in Ashanti region. I mean, majority of 37% in Ashanti region. So you could see that mostly all the regions, except few, support the removal without even seeing the evidence. So what is informing this decision?
And now, hearing this particular decision by the president to follow due process and suspend the Chief Justice, setting up this 5-member committee to, as it were, follow the dictates of Article 146, it appears that the sentiment of the people are indeed playing out as reflected, is it not?
I don't expect the sentiment to influence the judicial process because it is not an opinion issue. This is evidence-based and legal matter, and it's constitutional. So regardless of what people think, you must not follow public opinion. You must follow the law.
Mr. Dankwa, I appreciate you. Thank you so much for joining us. Mr. Dankwa is Executive Director of Global Info Analytics, and the details of that particular survey is on 3news.com. Make some time and visit 3news.com. We're back with the business news. Michael Obodo is standing by after this quick break. Stay with us.